Even today, according to today's storyteller, they still can't bring themselves to answer the front door whenever they're home alone. The reason goes back to a terrifying experience from childhood. Years ago, many apartment doors in Korea had a small opening near the bottom called a milk delivery slot. It allowed milk to be delivered without opening the door. Some families sealed theirs because they feared burglars, but the storyteller's family never did. Their neighborhood had always felt safe. Besides, the opening was so small that no one believed it could actually be used to break in. Or so they believed. One Friday evening, the storyteller's parents suddenly had to leave town after their grandmother was seriously injured in a car accident. Still an elementary school student, they were left home alone for the night. Too frightened to sleep in the bedroom, they carried a blanket into the living room, turned on the television, and tried to fall asleep to the sound of a comedy show. Then, a noise. It was coming from directly outside the front door. The apartment was small. The entrance was only a few steps away from the living room. Every sound from the hallway echoed clearly inside. Already frightened by being alone, they immediately lowered the television volume and listened. The rustling continued for several minutes. Then, it suddenly stopped. No footsteps, no door closing, nothing. The sound had simply stopped, right outside the front door. Terrified, they called their mother using the house phone. No answer. It was probably around 10 or 11 that night. For several minutes, nothing happened. No more sounds, no movement. Eventually, fear slowly turned into curiosity. The apartment's peephole was too high for a child to reach without dragging over a chair. That would have made too much noise. Then they remembered the milk slot. It opened inward, making it almost impossible for someone outside to notice if it was opened even slightly. So they crouched down and slowly pulled it open. And I was already there, already staring directly at them, waiting. Someone had been looking through the opening the entire time. They froze, every muscle in their body locked up. Then, the stranger smiled and laughed. Then, in a whisper,
있었네? 뭐해? 빨리 문 열어줘.
the voice was strangely high-pitched, yet there was something deeply unsettling about it. The storyteller had been a very small child. For someone's eye to line up perfectly with the milk slot, they couldn't have been crouching. The only explanation was that they had been lying flat on the floor, with only their head raised toward the opening. Unable to scream, unable to move, they watched as the stranger twisted a hand through the tiny opening and slowly opened their palm. The hand looked enormous. Then came another whisper.
손 좀 잡아줄래?
They fell backward. The milk slot slammed shut. Barely able to stand, they crawled across the living room floor toward the phone. Calling the police never even crossed their mind. They just kept dialing their mother's number. Again and again. and again, crying uncontrollably. Then another horrifying realization hit from the front door. The living room was completely visible, which meant the stranger could see inside through the milk slot. They couldn't take their eyes off the front door. Then, the metal flap slowly slid open again. A thin arm forced its way through the tiny opening. The opening wasn't nearly large enough for an adult's arm, but this one, it was unnaturally thin, so thin it looked as though only skin clung to the bone. The arm stretched farther into the apartment, sweeping slowly through the air, as if trying to find someone hiding just out of reach. After repeatedly calling nearly 10 times, their mother finally answered. They could barely speak. All they could do was cry. Their mother immediately called the landlady, who lived downstairs and knew the apartment's door code. Seconds later, footsteps thundered up the stairs. Then, the landlady screamed. The stranger fled. The sound of frantic footsteps echoed down the stairwell before disappearing. The landlady rushed inside, grabbed them, and took them downstairs. Only then did they finally break down completely. Most of that night has become a blur. They remember crying until they eventually fell asleep. When morning came, their parents were back. The police were already there. Years later, according to their mother, they finally learned what had happened after that night. Just a few days before the incident, the neighborhood had received its first official notice warning residents that a convicted sex offender had moved into the area, and the man outside their front door had been convicted of home invasion and rape. Even now, whenever someone knocks on their door while they're home alone, they don't answer, they hide. Some memories never really leave you.